They wanted a veteran to stabilize a wobbling franchise. Instead, Aaron Rodgers' meltdown on Sunday night poured gasoline on a locker room spark that was already smoldering. And now Pittsburgh has to decide whether it's built for one last Rodgers curtain call or for life after him. The roster makeover this offseason felt decisive. A Hall of Fame arm, a veteran culture reset, and the hope that Rodgers would buy the Steelers time to scaffold a contender. For about 5 weeks, that gamble looked salvageable. On Sunday Night Football in Los Angeles, though, Rodgers produced the kind of performance that makes you ask hard questions. 2 interceptions, multiple missed throws, 3 sacks, and a passer rating that cratered well below his usual standards in a 25-10 loss. The box score read like a veteran having an off night. The body language read like something more raw and personal. NFL.com. On the field, the issues were painfully simple. 0 third down conversions for long stretches, missed opportunities when receivers were open, and a few structural breakdowns that turned into sacks or turnovers. Off the field, the picture is more complicated. Rodgers has publicly suggested 2025 will likely be his final season, and that looming endgame changes the math on every personnel choice. When your starting quarterback might be on a 1-year deal and is openly hinting at retirement, internal patience evaporates faster, and everyone starts playing for now or for the future. NFL.com. What turned a bad loss into locker room unrest was the visible tension during and after the game. National analysts picked up on it. Veteran insiders pointed out Rodgers' terse interactions and pointed reactions to teammates, and local tape showed players responding with a mix of deference and frustration. When a franchise is split between win-now veterans and a younger core meant to grow into the post-Rodgers era, those moments of visible discontent become magnified. They're not just emotional beats, they're signals about who's driving the narrative inside the building. Yahoo Thethau Mike Tomlin's reaction afterward didn't calm anyone. Instead of defending a player at the center of a major offseason decision, Tomlin's praise for Chargers coordinator Jesse Minter and his short-clipped answers about the offense fed the storyline that other coaches are scheming circles around Pittsburgh's staff. The subtext was brutal. Yes, the opponent executed. Yes, the Steelers were outcoached in significant phases. And yes, Tomlin's guarded tone suggested he felt outmaneuvered. That kind of public candor, even framed as credit where it's due, smells like concession to fans and players who wanted answers. Apple Podcasts. Who does any of this actually hurt? Short term, it hurts cohesion. Players notice if their leader throws teammates under the bus on the field, even subtly. Veterans can absorb it. They've been through slumps and locker room heat before. But younger players who are supposed to be the future and who need to be taught how this franchise operates watch the dynamics and update their expectations in real time. Long term, it hurts planning. If Rodgers retires at season's end, as he suggested he probably will, the front office needs a clear succession path. Right now, that path looks blurry. People.com binarerdetenes. So what are the logical responses the Steelers must consider this week? 1. Own the present and coach through it. If the front office still believes Rodgers gives them the best chance to win now, then invest in short-term fixes, more protection, clearer play calling that minimizes Rodgers' exposure, an emphasis on quick game and run schemes to take pressure off the passer. Stability buys time. Time buys the chance to evaluate younger pieces in a lower-stakes way. Number 2, clarify the future immediately. If Rodgers is likely to walk after 2025, let that be a public plan that informs roster construction. That's painful. Veterans hate public timelines. But ambiguity is worse. A transparent timeline lets the scouting department and coaching staff pursue a defined successor or accelerate a draft plan. 3, bridge the locker room gap. Whether via veteran-led meetings, empowered player leaders, or even mediated team sessions, Pittsburgh needs to realign motivations. Myles Garrett and the defense can't be asked to carry constant blame for offensive hiccups. Similarly, Rodgers' standards can't be an excuse for public finger-pointing that fractures trust. Of 4, evaluate the coaching envelope. Tomlin's deference to opponents' game plans was honest but damaging in optics. The Steelers must demonstrate they're adapting. Schematic tweaks, clearer offensive identity, and visible ownership from coordinators will quiet chatter about being outcoached. This all sounds like the playbook. The unscripted part is human. The team is a collection of fragile relationships, and momentum swings quickly. A quarterback of Rodgers' pedigree can still lift a club to wins with primetime magic, but he can also accentuate weaknesses when he's off. The key question the front office faces is whether Rodgers is a bridge to a title window they can realistically enter, or a heroic stopgap that delays a necessary rebuild. There's a bitter irony here. Pittsburgh signed Rodgers to end the cycle of being perpetually almost, to manufacture immediate legitimacy. Now, the mirror shows a club that could be in a worse spot than before, emotionally fractured, strategically ambiguous, and asking fans to trust an uncertain timeline. That's a dangerous place when rival teams in the division are getting younger and meaner. So, where does that leave the fan who has to wake up Monday morning angry, worried, or both? Real talk. Be mad at the process, not only at one player. Hold the front office accountable for the trade logic and the coaching staff accountable for adjustments. But don't pretend this is purely personal. Football is messy because people are messy. And when you mix an aging superstar, a hungry locker room, and a coach who's rarely flustered, you're guaranteed to get an episode worth arguing about. Final thought. Legends don't always retire on a high note, and contending teams don't always make perfect choices. What matters now is whether Pittsburgh learns faster than the losses pile up. Because in this league, the team that figures out its identity first usually wins the last chapter. Tell me, is Rodgers the bandage that heals the wound, or the headline that forces a reset? Short version, yes. The Rodgers situation is making the Steelers locker room feel fragile right now. Not because one veteran is loud, but because his noise is amplifying faults that were already there. An offense that's cooled off, a thin margin atop the division, and a roster built for a short window that can't afford long pauses for chemistry or confidence work. What we actually saw Sunday wasn't scandal so much as symptom. Rodgers' visible frustration, grimaces on throws, that animated sideline reactions, reads badly on TV, and TV magnifies everything. But those moments matter because they're not happening in a vacuum. A 41-year-old QB on a one-year deal who's publicly hinted retirement and who's struggling to find rhythm turns every glare into a headline, and every headline becomes a locker room pressure test. Young players absorb it differently than veterans. The same scowl that inspires one teammate can deflate another. Why this feels unstable. 1. Timing. The Steelers are 5-4 after a 4-1 start. Division leads evaporate fast. There's little runway for error. Emotional flare-ups become fuel for narratives about collapse when the standings tighten. 2. Contract uncertainty. Rodgers being on a one-year deal and reportedly musing about retirement creates an existential ambiguity. Are we building around him or just trying to win now? That ambiguity seeps into play calling, roster construction, and personnel confidence. 3. Performance mismatch. Rodgers' body of work this season has been up and down. When a veteran's production dips, his vocal leadership looks less like earned critique and more like finger-wagging, even if intentions are good. That perception matters. What the Steelers need to do immediately: contain the narrative. Coaches and leaders must publicly and privately recenter the room. Clear expectations, no public witch hunts, and a short list of actionable fixes the players can own. Protect the QB more. If Rodgers is losing rhythm because of pressure or poor protection, fix the line or quicken the release. Small schematic tweaks, more quick game, quicker reads, simpler